Hi, I'm Naomi Norvez. Well, Merry Christmas. And, we're gonna talk about Christmas for this Merry Christmas. Because I saw a Christmas tree for 2 seconds and then thoughts started flowing in my head. So, here we are. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around a lot of things this year, and specifically how they relate to the ideal of Christmas, both in its giving nature and its consumerist culture, and specifically how all of that kind of revolves around the Christmas tree and Christmas lights and just the presentation of Christmas, like the physical objects, not the metaphorical objects, which we'll get into later, the physical objects that surround Christmas in America, and I'm sure in other places as well, but specifically I'm going to be talking about how in America this applies, because it's interesting to me, and I'm going to be looking into this, and it's going to be about Christmas, so it's going to be about hope and future and brightness, but there's also going to be talking about the lack of that, which means despair and death and all those fun things that happen near the end of every year, because they happen, and it's gonna be interesting. So let's just, I just want to let you know that up front. I want this to be a hopeful video, but I'm also going to be talking about non-hopeful things in here. So if you need to get out now, get out now. It's okay. I don't blame you. With that said, Christmas is interesting. Like, to me, as a Christian who celebrates Christmas as the birth of Christ, and as an American who sees the consumerist culture, and not even the consumerist culture, but the giving nature and the taking nature of Christmas and the show-off nature of Christmas, it's really fascinating to me and just weird. Like, some things I just don't understand. And some things I do understand. Like, for me, this kind of all revolves around the Christmas tree, because that's what started all this. I just walked into an office today, and they had a Christmas tree up, and I just started staring at it and reminiscing, and I started thinking more about what the meaning of the Christmas tree is, and how it kind of encapsulates and does not encapsulate the American dream in a lot of senses, because the Christmas tree is extremely consumerist. Like, it's a way to show off how into Christmas you are. If you can afford to get a tree, then you are in the spirit of Christmas. How big your tree is, how prominently it's displayed. Like, people usually set their tree so you can see it through their window. Things like that. And it's kind of a show, you're showing off how Christmas-y you are. The same thing with the Christmas lights. And it's kind of like a, what's the word? Oh my gosh. It denotes class. There we go. Denotes class. Does your neighborhood show off how Christmassy you are by having lights on your house and creepy blow-up things of Frosty the Snowman and Santa and Baby Jesus and stuff like that? Then your neighborhood is different than a neighborhood that can't do that, or people who don't buy lights or really invest in it or don't see a point in it. And but it's also the Christmas tree at the same time being very consumerist and being very, I got all this money and I can bet this big old tree and all these lights and you're gonna see how awesome I am in this Christmas season. It's also very anti-consumerist. It's very giving. It's very not American dream-ish, and we're going to get into the history a little bit, but I'm going to talk specifically about how it applies to America a bit more than the history in this video, just so you know. And it's fascinating to me because it's a symbol of giving, because there are presents under it, but also because of the ornaments. The ornaments are symbols. They're not just things you see and hang, they are a history of a family, of a specific ornament, of a gift they are symbols of the nuclear family. And when I think Christmas, I think of a Norman Rockwell painting of this big old tree with all these different ornaments over the years, and this mom and dad smiling, and this little boy and little girl opening presents. And that's probably what a lot of people think of in America when they think of Christmas, because Christmas denotes the nuclear family in its existence. In the American iteration of its existence. There we go. Because it kind of denotes happiness. It denotes a family coming together under one banner, under one tree, to celebrate the family unit that is them, to celebrate the fact that they are here and cohesive and can give presents to each other. And the Christmas tree is like an altar of that history. It has ornaments from when the kids were really young and made, like, I don't know, little gingerbread men when they were 3 and had their name painted really badly on the back. It has ornaments from when they were 5 that when they're 15 are maybe broken but have been glued back together caringly. And even the little orb things you hang on the tree can look into this, because they're usually reflective, and you can look into them and you can see your reflection kind of looking back at you. I mean, how you see the Christmas tree changes as you grow older. When you're young, you are underneath it, you are basking in it. But when you grow older, you might reach halfway up or even to its height, depending on the height of the tree. And it's all very about the American family, which I think is the main reason that people who aren't like the cohesive, ideal American family that you think of when you think of Christmas, at least what I think of when I think of the stereotypical Christmas. I think that's why people feel so alone and let down and bad about Christmas. When people are just alone on Christmas, or they are separated from their family because they can't physically go to them, or because they have been forcefully removed from the family, or because of other reasons, it doesn't feel right to them or to the family, because Christmas is the celebration of the cohesion of the family, that the family can come together under one banner, one day. Specifically Christmas, and also other holidays as well, but specifically Christmas, and come together and be whole. And people don't reach that ideal of wholeness, and that's why people feel bad about Christmas. And Christmas is whole, and it is happy. Like, when I think of that picture, that stereotypical Norman Rockwell picture of the tree and the family, they're all smiling. That's the stereotypical American Christmas. Everyone is happy. And that's not the reality. Not everyone is happy on Christmas. Some may despise Christmas for various reasons. Some may despise it for the lack of family that they can come together with. There are many other reasons people may not like Christmas. Not even the least of these would be the consumer culture, but mostly it's the ideal of it being about togetherness, and that people are alone on Christmas. And it's sad. It's sad to me to see so much in a tree, but it's also what the tree really represents in the American mind. That the tree is the banner in which we come under during this one night of the year to be family. And people cannot be family on Christmas. There is an ideal set by Christmas that people cannot reach for multiple reasons. And sometimes they don't want to reach it, sometimes they cannot because of things in the family. But whatever reason, Christmas is a holiday that you are either going to fully complete in different ways throughout your lifetime. Like when you're young, you come together with your parents or guardians and or siblings. When you're older, you may come together with friends, as friends being family perhaps. And maybe when you're older, you may come together with your spouse and your children. But some people they don't follow that path. Some people don't have parents. Some people will never marry. Some people don't have friends. A Christmas season is either a holiday you are going to complete in various cycles, under its banner in various ways, coming under the tree as family, or you will, either during 1 year of it or during multiple years, you will not complete its cycle, and it will feel like a fractured holiday because of that. Because it's about cohesion. Like everything about Christmas is about coming together in cohesion with each other, but some people cannot. And especially with the tree's greater significance to the family with its ornaments, that it is an altar of progress through growth. Like you could find ornaments that kids made when they were young, and as they grow older, they either stop making them or they keep making them. You can see when you're 20 or you're 30 or you're 40, you can see what you made when you were 3, and things like that. Some people don't have that kind of tree. Some people don't grow up with a tree. Some people don't see the tree as an altar, but the American view embraces this idea of tree as altar. And what we sacrifice to this altar are presents. They are the best presents we can afford to buy the people we love. You can see this a lot in commercials. The idea, especially in the Christmas ones, that the idea is to give the best way you can, you must buy the most expensive things you can afford. The best way to give is to consume, to take part in the consumer culture in a better way, in a higher way than you would in other times of the year. And I know that's kind of obvious, but I think it's also something that needs to be spelled out explicitly. Because, not only because people are going to fall into traps of buying and buying and buying, but also because there's an inferiority complex that comes with this, with Christmas. The idea that one cannot give enough, that one cannot buy the best present in the world, and they can't reach the ideal giving of Christmas. And it's just, how do I put this? It's very strange and very sad to see how Christmas taps into, the consumer culture and advertising tapped into a feeling of inferiority in people during Christmas. And it does it in such a sly way, and like a way of like humble looking, but sinister kind of on the inside. Because it's saying, yeah, the best way to get Dad the thing you love is to buy our power drill or whatever. And things like that. Kind of saying the best way to make your dad happy is to invest in our products. And that's nothing new, but it's especially egregious during the Christmas season because it's appealing to our sense of we need to find the proper sacrifice for this Christmas tree altar. And yeah, it's crazy. I'm sorry. Let me find a better word than that. I feel like that's kind of demeaning. It's puzzling to me sometimes, but I also feel caught up in the tide of it too. I remember there was one Christmas when I was a kid where I was just, I don't know what I did exactly, but on Christmas Eve I felt like I didn't deserve Christmas at all. And the next day I woke up and I got presents and my family loved me, and I felt like I didn't deserve their love because of something I did. I don't remember what exactly. It could have been various little things throughout the year. It could have been one big thing before Christmas. I do not recall. But there's something very beautiful in the fact that during Christmas, we ideally celebrate the fact that we do not deserve the gifts we give each other. That throughout the year, we sin, we trespass on others, we break hearts, we break the people we love, we become angry, we don't apologize, we apologize, we trespass, we just be human. And to be human means to be a failure a lot of the time. But on Christmas, we either accept that failure or we ignore that failure for the Christmas season or for the Christmas day to say that even with your failure, you are worthy of gifts and love. To me, the best gift you can give someone on Christmas is love. And again, this is one of the reasons why people are sad on Christmas, because they do not get that gift. And I know I keep going back to, happy things about Christmas, and this is why people are depressed. But I think it's an important thing to talk about with this season, because there's sort of an attitude, around depression in general, but specifically with Christmas, and everything's so happy and jolly, why are you sad? And it's just, I want to explain some of that here so people might understand. Not even specifically how it applies to me, though some of what I have said does, and I just gave you a story of how it does, but to better help people understand that sadness does not go away on Christmas. Sometimes it goes deeper on Christmas because of the culture surrounding it. And I know that that's sad in and of itself, but it is a reality. And Christmas is happy. It's a happy time. And sometimes people want to embrace the happiness within it and ignore the people who do not want to embrace that, whether because of tension between the family with themselves, because of sadness within them, because of grief or anger. We must not let the happiness of Christmas dissolve our ability to empathize simply because we want to be happy for a day or for a week, if we're counting the whole Christmas season to New Year's, or even 2 weeks if you want to count the week before Christmas. Because Christmas is hard. It's a hard season. It's a challenging season. But it's also a beautiful season where we come together and accept our beauty within us despite our sin. And I think that's the best way we can describe Christmas, both in terms of how it can apply to the secular world and to the religious world, that it is embracing beauty of humanity despite sin. And that is definitely what the Christmas season is about. More than just giving, it is about understanding that beauty. And sometimes it's hard, because there are people who do not reach that ideal of Christmas, and may never, ever reach it. There are people who cannot have a tree, will never have a tree, will never have a cohesive family, will not celebrate Christmas with a family, whether a relative blood family or a adopted friend family. And the choice people can make to embrace their beauty even with their sin is a pure, hopeful one on Christmas. But it is also a hard choice to make. Like a very hard choice. And not something we should ask of everyone. Adventures in Odyssey is a show by Focus on the Family. It's mostly a radio show. I think it's actually still running. But they sometimes make animated specials out of the show, and I ended up watching some of them. And there's this one that I look back at and think, okay, kind of on the nose, but okay. Basically, the main character, Dylan, and his family are getting ready for Christmas, and there's this, contest going on where the best Christmas display will win a ribbon, I think? Or maybe, a prize. I think it was, a ribbon. But anyway, so the snotty kid next door is my family's gonna have the best display ever! Ah! And he's, competing with Dylan. And he's putting up all these lights and stuff. And his family was just Dylan's family was just doing this, this simple manger display, but Dylan's oh no, I'm gonna show him, stand back everybody, I'm gonna show this guy. So they compete with each other to do the best lights until it goes, to ridiculous displays. And then they get so many lights. This is actually kind of funny. They put up so many lights in their respective houses, both the snotty kid and Dylan, that they make the power in their neighborhood go out. Wow, these two kids, man. They make the power in the neighborhood go out. And everyone's lights are down now. But luckily, Dylan's sister has been kind of sitting in the back the whole time saying, Dylan, no, you don't get it. Stop. What are you doing? Stop now. Luckily, her major display doesn't have a light. It just has a candle. And she holds baby Jesus in her arms and has a Mary outfit on and sings Away in the Manger. And the judge of the contest is like, you get the ribbon, yay! And that's the end. Like I said, it's very on the nose. But it makes so many assumptions, too. Like, there's so much to be said about how Focus on the Family uses this white middle-class boy in a lot of episodes. In either Dylan or Mr. Odyssey, who's like an older dude, or Eugene. There's a lot to be said about how Focus on the Family and Adventures in Odyssey uses white middle-classness to represent Christmas in this episode. But there's like a simple message of, don't go big or go home. Like, be humble about Christmas. And I don't know, because there's so many complexities in that. Not only in the obvious complexities, like don't invest so much in the consumer culture that you get lost in it and lose what Christmas means. There's the obvious implications, but there's also the humbleness of attitude and the humbleness of self on Christmas. That to be partaking in Christmas means to humble yourself and accept your sin and still find beauty in yourself. But there's also, like, this expectancy that humility, is the default of Christmas. And I don't find a lot of fault in that, except for, of course, people who step outside that boundary are not going to feel like they belong. I kind of like the Adventures episode of this animated thing about Christmas. Like, it's a simple message. Like, don't get so caught up. It's actually kind of an odd message, because it's like, don't get caught up in being the best. That's the first thing. Don't get caught up in the consumer culture of Christmas. That's the second thing. And then it's be humble about Christmas. Understand what it really is, which is Jesus. And you'll win a prize? I guess they're trying to say that Christmas will eventually be recognized by the mainstream. We just need to approach it humbly, but it's a very odd message, and I kind of ponder how it applies to the mainstream that they're trying to combat against. Because the mainstream is, of course, represented by the snotty kid who's like, I got the best display in the world, and you're just the two losers putting up the manger. And yeah, that definitely is how the mainstream is represented a lot in Christian Christmas stuff. Hey! And it's kind of gross. And it definitely ignores nuances in the discussion. Specifically that not everyone is like, Christianity sucks. Some people are just neutral about it. Some people are neutral about Christmas in general. Yeah. And I kind of ponder this sometimes because I know it's a simple cartoon for kids. But the way it talks about the mainstream is interesting. And I find so many nuances when I go in the mainstream and see how people view Christmas. From apathy to anger to frustration to sadness to happiness to honesty to beauty. And I don't want to ignore the emotions that come with Christmas and just put them under a banner that says, you are the mainstream, non-Christians, you don't matter. Because they do. And I'm sure Focus on the Family has done a better job at talking about Christmas since then, at least I hope they have. But this one sticks out of my mind because it still feels relevant today, because that's pretty much how Christianity views itself on Christmas. As the young girl humbly singing Away in a Manger while the rest of the world runs around putting up their dumb little lights and buying their dumb old presents. No, they don't see what they're really doing. Those dumb old atheists. And that's how it is. And I don't like that view. I remember, oh my gosh. This one just kind of peeves me a little bit. Last year there was a whole controversy because Starbucks put decorations on their cups, and Christians in America were like, that's not good! So they started protesting Starbucks by saying their name was Merry Christmas. Oh my goodness. And it's just this idea of the war on Christmas, on the Christian circle side, that's so to me. And it's still being perpetrated by the freaking president today, Donald Trump. This idea that mainstream is taking Christmas away from Christianity with its lights and with its presence and with its advertising. But Christians hold strong with the humble heart of Christmas, and they will pull through, and they will win the battle for the heart of Jesus on Christmas. And this sort of black and white bickering just really ticks me off, because it ignores all the nuances that could be taken in the discussion. And I kind of had to... I'm laughing at myself right now, because I had to learn this myself when I released and when I squinted Looks Like Christmas for the IF comp this year, the interactive fiction competition. And Linnea Glasser, I hope I pronounced your name right. I apologize if I did not. She did a live playthrough of all the games, and it was, oh my gosh, they're all so helpful! Like, seriously, her stuff is great! Oh my gosh, I can gush about it right now, but I really need to, oh my gosh, I have to get to a point, oh no! But, maybe I will some other time, but, she talked about how there are people who will look at, and when I squint, it looks like Christmas, and not, like, because the game kind of revolves around that attitude toward Christmas that I talked about, kind of sparkle-eyed wonder that America assumes most kids have, and I kind of subconsciously put in the game that most kids have, both subconsciously and consciously. And Lenny Glasser pointed out that some people don't see that at all in Christmas. That they're Judaism specifically, toward Christmas, and that Christmas requires a specific mindset for people, and that kind of opened my eyes, and I think that's probably what led to this whole discussion right here too. Kind of that thought working away at me. So thank you, Lydia Glasser, because this is a good discussion to have, I think, to kind of talk about the meaning of Christmas. Well, not just the meaning of Christmas as it applies to Christianity, but the meaning of Christmas as it applies to different people, different sects. And how, to me, it applies to me in a very different way than it applies to someone else. And there's sort of a magic in Christmas that is supposed, quote unquote, to be in everyone in America. Woo! But it's not. And some people it's not. Maybe it never was. Maybe it never will be. Sometimes not. Like, The Polar Express is a really good iteration of this, if you have read the book or seen that movie, where the magic of Christmas is represented by the main character hearing a bell on Santa's sleigh. And people he knows stop hearing the bell, but he doesn't stop hearing the bell. And it sort of equates Christmas to an act of faith in the spirit of it. The movie doesn't consider the fact that some people may never hear the bell because they don't care to hear the bell. And that's not a bad thing, that's not a good thing, that's just not what they are invested in. And it's an interesting discussion for me to have as a Christian, because I am very invested in Christmas and the story of Christ in the manger. But I also want to acknowledge that for others, it is not their story. And it's weird to acknowledge that, because for me, Christ is the ultimate truth, and I don't want to discredit that truth. But I also want to acknowledge other people's ideas of truth, even as I don't think that they are at the truth, but I also don't want to look down on them, and my ideal self is more interested in listening than judging, and I'm really trying to do that. in my life. And I don't know if I succeeded. I hope I have, but so I hope that makes some sense, because I really don't want to discredit the creation story in the manger here, nor do I want to discredit the stories of people who are affected by Christmas in America, because especially in America, Christmas touches everyone, but how it affects them is very different. And specifically for mainstream Christianity's story of Christmas is being ruined by the mainstream, the failure to break down that mainstream and understand their attitudes on Christmas, it's what has led to this whole attitude of war on Christmas to me. This idea that Christianity is at war with people who don't want to say Merry Christmas, when maybe it's people who aren't invested in Christmas because of their religious affiliation or because of other reasons. And I get conflicted about this because I want to respect others deeply as I can, and listen. But I also don't want to put people over God. And I get scared sometimes, and that's exactly what I'm doing when I say things like this. But I also want to listen to people, especially for Christmas and this time of year, because it's a hard season. It is, for so many reasons. I don't want to just kind of say, this is my story, that's all I'm sticking to, Christ in the manger, and you're wrong. But I want to understand and listen and take in these things. Like, Christmas it's such a strange beauty, and maybe a strange curse as well. Because as long as we have it, we're going to see discussions of war on Christmas by Christians. We're going to see the mainstream, I do not like that word, being stereotyped and boxed and brutalized. And we're going to see a lot of people on the offense and the defense when it comes to being in the spirit of things. And it's a sad season for a lot of reasons. Maybe because of religious reasons, maybe because of non-religious reasons. I mean, Christmas in itself at this point is almost a religion. Earlier I made metaphorical ties to the Christmas tree as an altar and the presents as sacrifices, because it is nearly a religion, a ritual that you partake in once a year to see the beauty in your humanity, to see light in the darkness. But sometimes people are so drowned in the darkness that the light of Christmas cannot come through. Sometimes Christianity shoves people into that darkness by dismissing the mainstream, by dismissing the ideas that are put forth by those who do not believe in Christ, and they fall into the dark, and that is where they stay, because to them the dark is fine. And I don't say dark and light here. I'm really trying to, in my mind those are neutral terms, light and dark. Ever since I read, I can't remember what the book is called, but The Importance of Spiritual Darkness, I believe. But yeah, so that's a really good book, by the way. But to me, light and dark are neutral terms, not inherently negative or positive, but I also know that people are going to hear dark as bad and light as good. So I want to make it clear that for me, light and dark is neutral. And I know that even by saying light and dark, I'm just kind of cornering the discussion, because there are many, many, many grays. So many grays to be found. There are textures and colors that are people's lives, and there are so many nuances to be found. I want people to be hopeful during Christmas, but I don't want people to see pain in my hope in Christ, nor do I want them to feel that by not finding the ideals of Christmas, whether that be a tree, whether that be participating in American consumerism, whether that be going through a drive-through birth of Christ scene, which is a thing, whether being with friends or family or drinking eggnog or whatever, I don't want you to feel like you failed yourself. I don't want you to feel like you cannot partake in finding your beauty because you haven't partaken in Christmas. Because Christmas is a time for us all to find our beauty. Because humanity is beautiful when it finds its giving spirit. And I don't want us to ignore that. And I don't want us to deny that. And I know there are those who cannot give. There are those who are too poor to give. There are those who just can't for various reasons. Maybe they can't get out of bed. Maybe they're chronically ill. Maybe, I don't know. I think the giving spirit of Christmas is about giving to others, but more than that, it's giving to self. It's about self-love. And for me, it's love from God to you, because not on Christmas Day, hypothetically on Christmas Day, Jesus Christ was brought into the world, and with that came a promise of everlasting love to be fulfilled during his life. And I find so much hope in that, so much beauty, and I know that others find disdain, or apathy, or anger, or just see foolishness. But I don't want us to ignore the idea that on Christmas there are miracles, and on Christmas there is giving and human love. Human love. And that includes self-love. There are those who cannot give on Christmas more than they have or anything to anyone. And that is just a time to be. A day to be with themselves or their family, or the ones they love. Just to be in a spirit of love. Another, I don't know if anyone's read the Geronimo Stilton books. I like that series. It's very kid-like in its spirit. And I like how the interrobang words, the onomatopoeias, there we go, are like different colors and stuff. It's really cool. But they have this Christmas book, where Geronimo Stilton he works at a newspaper, and he gives his greatest nemesis, Sally, I think her name was, who runs this other newspaper, the Daily Rat or something. He gives her a Christmas gift, and then and because of that, she accepts his invitation to his Christmas party, and they just have a night of peace between them. And I like that idea. The idea that hostilities on Christmas can become trivial when we are faced with the spirit of good humanity. But I also know that in real life, sometimes that doesn't happen. Maybe on Christmas you choose to forgive, but you are rejected. Maybe on Christmas you don't get a chance to do that your enemies stay your enemies. Maybe on Christmas you are betrayed. Maybe on Christmas you are hated, you are despised, you are rejected. Maybe on Christmas you find, instead of a spirit of love with your enemy, a spirit of hate. And I don't want to ignore that, because there's just this idealism in Christmas that on Christmas friends will be enemies, and friends will be together, and family will unite. But it doesn't always happen. So I've talked about this for long enough. So I'm just going to close with this. There's beauty to be found at Christmas, but if you can't find it, you don't need to feel guilty. There is beauty in you on Christmas. And I know that sometimes there's hate, and there's mockery, and there's rejection and depression, and there are so many things in this world that make you want to give up on it. But I really, truly hope that as the Christmas season approaches, that you find hope, that you find the beauty and humanity that Christmas celebrates. I genuinely believe that is possible, and I truly hope that you find it. Because we need as many humans as we can in this world. We need all of you. All of you. And there is love in this world. Perhaps not on Christmas for some. Perhaps not on most days for some. But there is love. And I hope you find it. I do. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Have a good day.